Hi, my name is Montina Roberts, and welcome again to another dynamic episode. Today I have the amazing Noelle Russell, but I know her. Let her talk for herself. Why don't you tell the audience who you are and what do
Yay.
you do?
Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting. So I own a company called the AI Leadership Institute, and about 15 years ago or so, I was given an opportunity to get involved in artificial intelligence, given a chance to work at Amazon Alexa, got a chance to work at Microsoft, came from IBM long before that. Right. So my journey has really taken me through the classic journey of almost any enterprise company, of starting with software and building applications to mobile to what we're working with now, data and artificial intelligence. And so one thing I noticed along the way, though, is that so many of these companies, as I started working with them, they had a really they didn't have a lot of understanding of how to actually use the technology, whether it was cloud back in the day or mobile or artificial intelligence. It all starts with us kind of not really knowing what we're doing. And so that's what I focus on, is really helping people gain awareness about the technology, but then build a sense of readiness, like how do we actually use this technology, and then ultimately build competitive advantage. And that's why we call it the ARC framework. So that's what we do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome once again.
Thank you.
We're
I'm
excited to have you here. And obviously, you are the person we need to be speaking to. So why don't we start with the first question? We have a general audience. Artificial intelligence is being used all the time. Why don't you take the opportunity to explain to us, define for us what is artificial intelligence to someone who has no idea?
Yes, I always like to think about artificial intelligence as almost like a new user interface. So most people know about a computer or even a phone, right? You get on your phone, you look at a screen. It gives you the ability to talk to any kind of app. You can talk to a financial application. You can talk to a health application. So enter into the world of artificial intelligence. It gives us the ability to create a new way of interacting with technology. So there's lots of different types of AI, but one of them that everyone can relate to, and of course, I was raised on Amazon Alexa. That's how I got into the world of AI. And Amazon Alexa was a specific type of artificial intelligence called natural language, which now anyone who's used ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, everyone now knows that all you have to do is talk to a machine and it will do what you want. Create me an image, help me with my LinkedIn profile, rewrite my resume. Very, very easy. I call it vending machine AI. But this artificial intelligence, the benefit is that it understands what you say. So when you ask it a question, it can give you an answer. But that's just another user interface, right? We're still doing the same thing. It's like us going into Word and creating our LinkedIn profile. But instead, we can ask a machine to do it on our behalf. So this is why we call it artificial, right? I actually used to build lots of applications. I built over 100 apps in my first year at Amazon. And in building them, I was always surprised because when I built an AI application, it didn't feel very fancy. It was code. Like I had to write every line of code. So the magic of artificial intelligence is often not for the builder. It is for the people we build for. And so, for example, I have my dad, he lives with me. He has a traumatic brain injury. He has lack of any short-term memory whatsoever. So his mind is basically white blank every time he goes to bed. And so I had to create an environment that allowed him to be independent. Meanwhile, he didn't have a good memory system. And I used Alexa to do this. And so when he would use Alexa, he would ask it like, what do I need to do today? And Alexa would remind him that he needs to take his pills and he needs to take a shower. He would be like, that's amazing. I can't believe. And then Alexa would know his birthday. And he's like, this thing is so, like, it's a super, like, amazing. I don't even understand how it can understand and know these things. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I mean, I told it to know those things. I gave it that information. But to the user, it's artificially intelligent. It's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So that's kind of the moral, though, of AI, is that when you use AI, when you first start using it, you kind of think about it through the lens of like, wow, this is amazing. But eventually, it's really important to realize someone had to build that thing, right? It wasn't, AI didn't come from nothing. It came from humans. Awesome. Humans built it, humans created it, and humans trained it. And so if you're using AI, that's, I think, the most empowering part of it, is that you get an opportunity to train it too.
Awesome. I really love the fact that how you break that down to the value for us, because I've always said this, and I still believe this hold true, that technology is of no use unless it adds value to our lives. And that's our vision at Proficient Business Service, to enable human potential. To see you doing this real and real life using AI to do it makes a lot of sense. But now, let's help the audience to understand a little further, right? So we have artificial intelligence, and I like to think about it as being the bottle that the genie is in, this
Yes.
unlimited, this unlimitless potential that exists. But then we hear about machine learning, and then we hear about deep learning, and then we hear about generative AI. So because we want to be able to educate and empower others in their potential, why don't you give us a breakdown of that beautiful analogy that you use with the kitchen?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I don't know which analogy I use. Tell me more.
More that the kitchen is the artificial intelligence, and within the kitchen are machine learning, which is the
I see.
tools that
I
exist
see.
and technique. And then we have the deep learning, which is the recipe book.
Yes, I
What
love
the
it.
hell?
I know, I like it. This is great. It's better to hear you say it than me say
And
it.
then the generative AI then will be the chef that now has the ability then to create something.
Yes, I love it. This is amazing. So this is, of course, in my book. So I love that you. Thank you
I
for
read it.
reading
I
it.
did
Yeah.
read it.
I was almost quizzing you a little bit. But yeah, I think it's really important for people to realize that all of these tools work together. But it also is important to know that when you're building like an AI system, right, it is the broad environment that you're working in. But then the first thing we started using professionally in companies were AI systems. We call them traditional AI systems. Systems that, for example, that allow you to take a picture of a driver's license and have it read. These things were called supervised learning, machine learning, supervised, unsupervised. But just to give, again, it's nice to know the journey of the technology we're in. Right now, we're
Yes.
using a very advanced form of AI that all we have to do is say what we want and it'll build code. It will create applications. It will connect systems. But prior to that, we built systems that allowed us to do smaller things. So, for example, document intelligence. And even today, most companies aren't using this technology the way they could. But imagine you're the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles. It's where you go to get your driver's license, take your driver's test. Obviously, one of the things they're going to ask you for when you go and ask for something, they're going to ask you for your driver's license or all the paperwork, your birth certificate, all of this like documents you have in your hand. But at the end of the day, they need it in a system. Today, or without AI, what they're ended up doing is they're writing, like they're looking at your birth certificate and typing into a terminal what your birth date is, what your name is, all this information. What we realize is like there's human error that happens when you do that. So machine learning was created in order for us to teach a machine, hence the name, teach a machine how to do something we currently do, but do it with higher levels of effectiveness. So our job becomes less, let's do the entry, and instead let's do the review. And that's really exactly what we've evolved to today when we move into generative AI, right? So machine learning specifically was an opportunity for us to just create a machine and train a machine to do a very specific task. So document intelligence is an example, computer vision, right? Autonomous vehicles, most of us know that those are around and available. But if you look at the way an autonomous vehicle works, like a Tesla or my new Jeep Wagoneer,
Yes.
right? It has sensors everywhere. It's what I love about it.
Yeah,
You walk
60
around
degrees.
there's all these little sensors everywhere, and it's using that sensor data to decide what to do. But someone had to train it. And really it was drivers. We put those sensors on real people driving real cars in hard cities like LA and Miami, and we watched how people drove. And then we used that data to train the model. Supervised learning. I'm telling the model what good looks like. But as a result of that, like the evolution was like, okay, I really like supervised learning, but it only allows you to do one thing: scan a passport, scan a driver's license, or create a bunch of sensors that teach a car how to drive. We want something that's has a little bit more functionality, or what you might consider like an assembly line, right? So maybe I want to be able to build an app that can tell what dog you look like, right? So it's like a fun little app on Snapchat. You take a picture of yourself, it analyzes your face, and then it says, you look like a Pomeranian or a Labrador. It's a fun little app. So I'm saying this because I built one of these apps, and it was very fun. I have 6 kids. It was really fun for them. So But now I'm not just using one app that's scanning my face. I'm using a series of apps. So this is what the concept of neural networks is a collection of these applications, creating multiple decisions along the way. Now, I know I want to give you my face and I want to end up with a dog that looks like me. But there's lots of things that have to happen in the middle. And so that's what we do with the neural network is we create an assembly line of decisions that have to happen. Some might be human decisions. Most of them are like, first, I need to know your face. Then I need to map your face to characteristics of a dog. That means I have to have a map of what a dog looks like. Then I have to do a search for actual pictures of that dog in order to show it to you. All of those are different systems. And so that's a fun example, but an even more practical example for most people is contact center, right? When you call a company and you say, hey, I need help with this. I mean, I just called the front desk of my hotel. I'm like, hey, I need help. My TV isn't working. It would be great if and some hotels do this because they have AI and they have systems to help them. But I called, they should already know who I am before, like pre-call summarization. They should already know what I'm calling about. Then I tell them. And then as I'm talking, the system should be looking up the things I'm asking for. The human doesn't have to look it up. The AI will look it up and say, I think Noelle's talking about this. I think Noelle needs this information. So that human now can create a relationship with me, but I'm using a network of AI systems to help the human do better work. And that's why I think PBS is so, like your mission is so relevant right now, is because amplifying human ingenuity is exactly what these systems do for us.
That's amazing. I really appreciate the journey. And the reason why I appreciate the journey is because just until yesterday, I was speaking to someone and they were surprised to know that artificial intelligence or a form of it predates a decade ago. Like the bank was using fraud detection with AI, right? So that's amazing. But that brings us now with generative AI, and we're hearing so much more about what's coming with quantum computing, and the list could go on and on. So let me ask, help us to understand. Is AI thinking or is it doing something else? One of the great myths out there.
Yes, right? One of the inquiring minds want to know. And so I think the first thing is to think about, like, what is the definition of thought, right? How are we defining thought? So if you define thought as being able to take in information, process that information, and generate an outcome, then absolutely AI does that all the time. However, when humans think, as we both have experienced, when something happens, our ideas are not linear, right? They're exponential. That's why we have this term like shiny buttons and squirrels, like, this. It's very exciting. Our brains are very dynamic. We also are very multifaceted. We care about lots of things. So when we listen to someone speak to us, if they mention, for example, when I get on stage, I always say that I'm a mom of 6 kids. And then I talk about my journey in AI. And most people, if you were just passing by, would be like, how are those two things even related? But as a human, of course they're related, because the work I'm doing to manage my household shows up directly in the work I do to manage my machines, my agents. Right? I always tell people who are moms, caregivers, pet owners, they make the best prompt engineers, the best AI communicators, because we know how to talk to something over and over and over again and try to get them, if I have a child, I will have to tell it things maybe 3-4 times to get the child to like understand what I want them to do and how I want them to do it. An AI model is very similar. It doesn't immediately know what you want. You have to train it, and then you have to continuously train it. And so I think that's part of what I've uncovered is the journey of using the technology is that, you can interpret it as thought, but it's much more structured. Like an AI system it's gonna answer the question you ask it. When it says thinking, right, it has like a little blurb that pops up saying, I'm thinking about this. Really what it's doing is looking for information in its training data that maps to your question. And so I don't think that, like, my thoughts don't necessarily look at history, right? It's a look at history, a look at what I want to do, a look at, like, I have a creative side of me. So I think human thought is much more multifaceted than machine thought. But I absolutely think we call it chain of thought for a reason. Like AI systems, when you talk to them, we call it chain of thought prompting. And really what we're saying is that we want to guide a machine to continuously make kind of subsequent decisions. So yeah, I would say yes, it thinks, but it doesn't think in the same way humans think.
Awesome. I love that. I love that separation because it makes the world of a difference to us, right?
Yes.
And if that's the case, then if we think about it that way and doing this predictive level of reasoning, then the question will come for us who are sitting here. It can do so many more tasks, much better than we can. Things that are predictive, that are repetitive over and over and over again. So the question I would like to ask, and I'm sure many of my audience would like to ask, what are the concerns? We have seen the level of disruption in different industries, most creative, right? Being able to relieve people of certain tasks that they were doing before. But then there are these concerns of job security, for example. How would you respond to what are your concerns regarding AI, the tool itself, and then how can we mitigate?
Yeah, my biggest concern, I think, is in the approach people take to using AI. So most people, as I begin educating them on this technology, most people use AI in very much of a consumer mode, right? Like that they're asking the AI system, give me an image, generate, help me write this email. It's like a vending machine. I put in a quarter, I get, a soda back. In this case, it's okay. That's the way AI, it works that way. But it doesn't actually amplify human ingenuity that way, right? And so my concern is that humans will not actually take advantage of this technology. And that happens all the time. We build tech all the time that humans don't use. Remember Google Lens back in the day, right? Great tech. If it launched today, it would probably do very well. But that great technology, it fell flat in the market because humans didn't know how to use it, what value it brought. And so that's why a lot of organizations like OpenAI and Microsoft and Amazon are spending in a lot of resources building skills centers to educate people on how to use this technology. But another concern that's aligned with that is that most people think that AI, like ChatGPT, most people have it on their phones. Most people are using it every day. Some people don't know that you can actually you can create an account. Most people are using it for free. About 72% of people that use ChatGPT or Claude, if the model doesn't do a good job, they never say anything. They're just like, well, that's awful. And they just walk away. And what they don't realize, which is why I like that we talked about machine learning, what they don't realize is that in machine learning, the only way models get better is if we as the users tell the model creator that it's bad. So if a model creates a bad image or misrepresents my culture or my personality or misrepresents my business or my business data, it's my job to tell the model, you got that wrong. Most people will just walk away and be like, it's fine. So my concern is complacency, but not on the tech. I'm not worried about the tech. We actually have very good technology right now. I'm actually worried about humanity. I'm worried that we are building a humanity that's complacent, that will over-rely on technology that was not built to serve them, and will ultimately, there's a study that was recently released on what happens to your brain on ChatGPT, and that there's a level of atrophy that happens. It can happen. It doesn't happen to me. My brain is on fire when I'm using these technologies, but many people, when they use ChatGPT, they kind of sit back. I remember I taught a class at the beginning of the year to help people set up their year. It's called Design Your Life. And so I teach them how to design their life for 2026. And we just redid it for the second half of 2026. And crazy thing happened. The students were asking the model what they should do, what their purpose should be. And that's, of course, I was like, okay, so the one thing you don't ask it, you don't give it the question. Your job is to own the question and ask it to help you with the question you've already defined, which is what we actually did earlier today. So that's what I think is a big opportunity for people, is to realize that AI is not supposed to take away the question. AI is supposed to help you get bigger answers. And so that means we could answer it without AI, but we get to do bigger, better, faster things when we partner with it.
Awesome. I couldn't help but get goosebumps when you talk about the human potential and amplifying our own ingenuity, right? Because technology is just the lens to magnify that for us. And this brings me to an interesting point. I love the genie illustration. I like to use the analogy because The bottle is the potential of the AI. It's the genie is sitting in it. We have access to it. And what you just described is our ability to access it. It's readily available, but will we use it?
Right.
If that is the case, then, Noel, here is something that I think is really important. Help us to understand, rather than talking about the skill set we need to develop to use AI, talk about the skill set that we should be promoting as humans that we don't want to pass on to AI, like cognitive powers and creativity.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the things I caution users about as they begin to get excited about AI, I use an analogy that you know well, my baby tiger analogy, right? So it is woven into my book. It's woven into all of my keynotes that I do. And it describes this almost perception that people have when they first start using AI. It's kind of like a baby tiger. It's cute, it's cuddly, it's adorable. You're excited to have it. You want to share it with people. But at this stage, when it's small and you can wrap your arms around it, this is the most important time to ask these harder questions about what is it going to eat? Like, what kind of data does it need to survive? Where is it going to live? How many resources is it going to consume? So many people are worried about resources that these AI models are consuming. But to your point on like what does the human own? The good news is that we decide, like we get to choose what we let AI do. And like similarly with the baby tiger, we get to decide where it lives, how it lives, we get to decide how big it gets. We get to make those choices, but most organizations, they're kind of letting those baby tigers run free. So they're growing and outpacing the ability for organizations to keep their arms wrapped around these, to build security systems, safety systems, privacy systems. So the number one skill I usually encourage is actually not a technical one, it is a leadership one, right? The same thing that you would need to lead humans, you will need to lead machines. So clarity of thought, right? A definition of success. If you were to hire a human into your organization to help you do a task or a set of tasks, what would you tell them? Like, you're not going to just be like, good luck, I hope you do well. Same with kids. You have a child, you're not going to just, push them out of the nest at 4 years old and be like, you can walk now and you can talk a little bit. You're fine. Enjoy your life. Like, there's a lot more to teach. And so these models, when we get them, they can walk a little bit. They can even talk a little bit, but they don't know what living or doing the work looks like. So that's where we come in. So clarity of thought, defining what success looks like for an agent, and then most importantly, human feedback. As I mentioned, most people do not provide models feedback, especially your own. If you build a model in your company to solve a problem, I hope you have a team that is constantly monitoring that. Its job, we call them, at Amazon, we had accuracy review teams, and their job was to monitor the accuracy of an AI system. That was it, their whole job. However, these systems were serving billions of people, so it was a full-time job. But they would be looking at like a dashboard of metrics showing the health of the system, right? So that's the question you have to ask yourself. Do I know the metrics for success for this model? Could I put that on a screen and watch if the model's doing what I want or not doing what I want? Most people are flying completely blind in the age of like baby tigers and be like, look at my cute tiger. I have no idea what it does or where it goes or how it works. It might bite someone, it might not. They have no controls. So I think that is a huge opportunity for organizations to realize it is not a technical skill set that they need to develop. It's actually a leadership skill set that they need to develop. We need to develop our humans to be better leaders because they may never lead another human, but they are definitely going to be leading these machines, and they are not as easy to manage.
That is amazing. That is really, really, really amazing. So leadership skills to be able to develop. So that brings us right to the segment where we need to discuss, as a leader, an owner of a business, I need to use this tool. I need to use this tool to get a competitive advantage, as you explained earlier. I need to get the benefit from this to improve efficiency, operational level, right? Then how do I get started? What do I do?
Yes, I always like to tell, so I talk to a lot of executives and they don't know where to start. So I always give them basically a way of prioritizing use cases. One mantra I encourage organizations to adopt is show, don't tell. And that means like, don't watch a YouTube video and create a PowerPoint or talk to people about it. Like, you are in an age of time where you can just use your words and build something. like in a vibathon or a hackathon. You can just get in front of Claude, ChatGPT, tell it what you want with clarity of thought and a definition of done, a definition of good. You describe what you want to build and you hit enter, and then it builds you something. So I think building that exercise is really important for organizations, specifically leaders, because then you'll understand what your people who are doing the work, what they have access to. But I like showing versus telling. So if I'm going to go and like try and get a CFO, which is usually my hardest person to convince, if I'm going to talk to a CFO, because at the end of the day, this costs money, right? We have a concept called tokenization or tokens. Tokens is the currency of AI. It's how organizations charge you to use their AI systems. And at the end of the day, the CFO is the one who's going to have to write the check to buy these tokens. So the first thing I do, right? How do you get started? Find parts of your organization. I call it an AI impact assessment. Look around and figure out who is hurting right now. Best thing you can do is ask them. Get them in a room and say, what hurts you? Now, most people, so I did this with the Metropolitan Museum of Art with the curators at the Met. And we had 9 data scientists from MIT and a bunch of curators at the Met. And we all got into a room, and we had 2 days with them, a hackathon for 2 days. And the job was for us to help the data scientists, to help the curators build an AI system to help them. But the whole first day, it was like an awkward high school dance, right? Like people were on this side and other people were on this side, and nobody was talking to each other. I remember the producer came up to me at the end of the day and was like, I don't think it's going very well. And I was like, just wait. So I was like, just be patient. It's coming. And what we had to do, and I'll give an example. Like, I remember the day Alexa launched. So Alexa launched on a Thursday. My son was born on a Monday, my third son. And so I had just had a baby, and judge me if you will, I went right back to work. Like I had 2 babies that week, right? So I had 2 babies. And so my son is born, but he's my third. And third baby, you're like, it's fine. He can raise himself. And so I go back to work. I'm at work. Then a week later, my dad gets hit by a car as a pedestrian. Wow. So now he's in the intensive care unit. So I just had a baby. I launched Alexa. My dad's in ICU. I'm in there with a newborn. You're not supposed to do that, apparently. It's crazy town. I go into work one day to fix something because Alexa's launching and a lot of things are happening. And a friend of mine walks up to me and goes, are you okay? And I'm like, or no, she said, how are you? As most people do. Right. And we're like, yeah, fine. It's good. No problem. And so many times that day I must have said that. But this one woman who I'm now very good friends with, she stopped and she put her hand on my shoulder. She was like, no, you just had a baby. Like, how's it going? And she stopped and she cared. And I was like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And so I was like, but that's what happens when you build trust with somebody. Yes. And so what I realized in AI adoption, that moment has to happen for the people you're building for. You have to put your hand on their shoulder. You have to look them in the eye and be like, I'm not here to build you an app to replace you. I'm here to find out what hurts you every day. And I actually care about what hurts you. And if you tell me what hurts you, you'd be shocked at what I can build for you. And then all of a sudden, we had 17 use cases in an hour pour out once we got them to trust us. And then of those 17, we built about 7 or 8 of them. They ended up on NBC Nightly News. It ended up being amazing. One of them was an app for my son who has Down syndrome to allow him to walk the Metropolitan Museum of Art. He could walk all of these art exhibits without actually having to be there. He could just use his voice on Alexa and a screen and say, show me art I might like. And it would ask him a couple questions. Well, what's your favorite color? What do you like to do? And he'd be like, oh, I have a Degas painting that matches that. And then you'd be like, oh, show me more about this artist. And so it took him on this beautiful journey. But also the number one thing curators wanted is that they realized that their human eyes, when they looked at a painting, could only see what they had been trained to see. And so they had realized over time that they had mislabeled things in art because they didn't understand it. Imagine a curator in New York looking at Bohemian art. And there'd be symbolism in there that they have no idea of. So it would either get lost and they wouldn't tag it, or they'd tag it incorrectly. So an example was like there was an urn in a photo, very famous, but it was not an urn, it was a vase. And so it got mistagged. And then in another photo, it was an urn and they tagged it as a vase. So they realized they were not flawless in their ability to tag, but also there was only just so much they knew. And so that was kind of the cool moment, is that they realized they could build an AI that could do something they couldn't do. Not take away tagging, but amplify their ability to really understand art in a whole new way and actually teach them something along the way.
Awesome. So as a leader, the create a trusting environment is safe enough by adding value to them, by solving an issue that they have that's causing them pain.
Yes.
I love it. That is amazing.
And it's all about trust, right?
That
Like
is
if you don't
amazing.
build trust, they won't tell you anything.
Awesome. So let's dive just a little bit further now as we look into, in the environment we have created such, you have given us a lot to think about, the entire journey of AI. The question for me now is, what are you most excited about building in AI next for you?
Yes. I mean, so what I like to do, and I will frame, like, I think everyone will get to this point. Once you learn a little bit about AI and you experience building, showing versus telling, being a doer, not a talker, like this is a persona that you can take on. You go into an organization, as soon as something happens that you're like, we should fix that, you don't just say, oh, well, that's a application we don't own. We don't have control over that. Like, you immediately move into builder mode. So today, for example, we were doing a Vibe-a-thon experience. I'm seeing what we're doing. I'm like, you know what would be good? As soon as I have that moment, I'm now like 2 seconds later on my phone telling an AI to build my idea. So it's in like immediate build. And this is I think the power that we have. Once someone is empowered to use this technology, those ideas that someone has in the moment is through their lens of experience, through things that they understand that no one else does, right? You are one of one. Like, there's only someone like you who has had your work experience, your life experience, your kids, your parents. Like, so when you get an idea, it's uniquely you. And this is, my husband says this all the time to me. He's like, he never really understood what uniqueness was until he met me. Because he was like, every unique idea I have, I'm like, I can build an app for that, right? So I immediately go to building as opposed to settling. So it allows me to never have to settle. Like, as an employee, I never have to sit back and go, I am a victim here. I'm a victim of circumstance. I used an app and it's awful. I can now create a solution for that. Or better yet, or at the very least, I can create a vision for what a world without that problem might look like. And I can show it to my boss, or I can show it to my CEO, or I can become a CEO, and I can build that vision. And that wasn't possible 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you would have had to hire people and fund it and get money. Now you can build an application, as some of your employees have done. You can build a full application, get it to market with under $100. Like, there is no better time. And so no matter what you think about Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, one thing he says, and he has kids now, so I love the way his personality is evolving, which happens to all of us when we have children. But he said right now is the very best time to be someone who has ideas. Yes. Because we could never go from idea to execution in a day, in an hour, the way we can today, and really inexpensively, maybe even for free. And so hopefully that's the journey I usually, want people to go on, is like, how do you move from saying, oh, that's just the way it is, to, wait, I could change the way it is. And you could do it like the second you think of it, you can start building it.
Well, that is awesome. You have certainly demonstrated through your own living that you are leveraging technology to enable human potential. So if you could sum up just one sentence, what message would you leave with us today, especially us in this region, in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, who are new to AI and its adoption?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing you can do is move beyond being a consumer of AI. Going to AI and just typing in a few words, like asking it a question. There is a setting in every model, ChatGPT, Claude, it's called customize or settings. When you go in there, you have the ability to teach the model you're using, the system you're using. You can tell it who you are, how you think, what your core values are, what your leadership principles are. You can tell it the kind of phrases you use. You can give it your persona so that it knows more about. It's not just a vanilla AI just generating, the same thing for everybody. It's custom to you. So the one thing I would say is, like, if you do nothing else, shift from using an AI that wasn't built for you to building an AI that is customized to you. And that's not hard. It doesn't require any technical knowledge. You just have to go into the settings and change the custom instructions. So I would challenge everyone to do that.
Awesome. It was a pleasure having you.
Hey.
We can't wait to have you back with us again.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So thanks for joining us for this episode, and we look forward to seeing you in the next.